Yo, what's good? I want to pose a question to you guys. Was 2015 a success or a failure for Premier Boxing Champions for the PBC? Or does it lie somewhere in between that? Even though it seems like a mighty long time since it started, the PBC doesn't even have a year since it started. It started in March, and the first card that happened was, of course, Keith Thurman versus Robert Guerrero and Broner versus John Molina. So that was the first card that ever happened in the PBC. And if the last card of the year happened this Tuesday or yesterday, it was Douglas versus Del Alba. I totally missed this. And there's a slight contrast in the level of the fights and how big of a deal they made it seem in March when it was the first boxing fight in 40 years. I think it was since Larry Holmes. Since boxing is on NBC on prime time to this, where I don't know the network that they fought in. I don't know the guys that fought. I don't know the weight divisions that they fought. I was counting the cards and the fights. They had 46 cards this year, the PBC had, and 89 televised fights. That's a whole lot of boxing, man. I remember in the week of the Golovkin fight in October, they had 4 fights in 1 week. I think it was one on Monday, Tuesday. I'll just look right here. Oh no, Amir Amir Monsoon versus Gerald Washington on Tuesday. Alexander Devin Alexander versus Aaron Martinez, really good fight. Wednesday, and Fonfora versus Cleverly on Friday, and Peterson versus Diaz on Saturday. I mean, some of these were decent to very good fights, but 4 freaking cards in 1 week, man. That's a lot of boxing to watch to keep up with. And I asked the question not in a monetary sense. I don't know if they lost. I've heard that Al Heyman has lost millions of dollars in this. I've heard otherwise. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I'm a fan of the boxing. If you know something about the profit wise, you can leave it in the comments. Let me know. I do like to get informed, but that's not that's not everything I care about. There has been some good fights, and here that I look at my a list for my fights of the year, PBC has a few. There were some great. I'm gonna say there were some great fights on the PBC. Glowacki versus Huck is one of my front runners for fight of the year, man. I'll probably pick that or Vargas versus Miura. It's one of those two. So, and that's on free TV. That was on Spike TV actually. The Spike TV cards has been pretty good. Another one is Edwin Rodriguez versus Seal. I actually put that on my underrated fights series. Even though it happened recently, I think that this fight will be forgotten and it's an underrated classic. And if you haven't seen this, go ahead and watch it. Cleverly versus Fonfora. Those are 12 action-packed rounds right there. A very good fight. And we got Abner Mares versus Leo Santa Cruz. Those are another 12 rounds of action-packed. All those fights were on PBC and all deserve to be contenders for fight of the year. At least top 5 fights of the year in the PBC. There are a lot more fights that happened. A lot of guys got light shown on them, like Lee Shelby, Gerald Washington, Javier Fortuna, Errol Spence, Felix Diaz against that Peterson fight. So I I, I do think it is. I do think it has been a success in 2015. I don't know if it made any new fans of boxing. I mean for the sport, but definitely me as a hardcore fight fan, I enjoyed watching boxing on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but I did not watch every one of these cards. I did not. And there were some mismatches and there were some fights that were really they didn't look like good fights on paper, and this made people not want to actually go ahead and watch them, or they look like mismatches, and they really weren't good fights. Stevenson versus Carpenter, Quillen versus Zarafa, and just some fights that nobody really cared to watch as a main event, as like Lara versus Rodriguez. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, there were some very solid cards, some very good fights, some young up and comers, and some veteran fighters like Chris Ariola getting shine, getting TV time, and showing off their skill, and the fans being allowed to see them. Khan Algiri was an okay fight. So, I mean, I could see it where you want to debate it either way. Because you could put any fighter on TV all you want. But if people are watching it, not even from a monetary standpoint, but like from a fan standpoint, if people aren't watching it, then who cares about the fight? If I don't watch it and there's not much buzz about it, I'm not going to watch it. See, I didn't catch Rodriguez versus Seal live because I don't want to see Edwin Rodriguez fight. Who cares? All of a sudden I hear all this buzz about it, and I'm like, man, I gotta check this fight out. The same with Cleverly versus Fanfora, and I probably would have caught that fight. It was on a Friday. I probably would have caught that if I didn't watch the first two cards of the week, man. I was kind of tired of boxing for that week, man. Even though we love the sport, it's just a lot. It's just a lot of. It's just a lot of it to intake, man. Just into our system. So 46 cards. Excuse me. 46 cards. 89 fights, man. I don't even know how many cards I watched. And I won't bother you guys with counting them, but I'll tell you. Okay, just counted them, and I watched 27 of the 46 cards. So more than half, and I think that's an accomplishment. I think even the so-called reporters here on YouTube, even actual reporters, even actual boxing scribes, actual boxing reporters, I don't think there's one that could say that they watched every single PBC card. I did count. I watched the first 14 because up to that point, it still seemed like a big deal to me to watch the PBC. But after that, I kind of lost interest. They had Saturday morning cards and Sunday cards. It was a bit it was a bit much. And that's where, like I said, you could say that it was a failure because they got hardcore fans disinterested in the product, and you could say yes, quality versus quantity, right? Give me less fights, but give me rock solid fights, and we still got them. Quillen versus Jacobs, solid matchup, right? A few fights of the year that I already mentioned. Figueroa, DeMarco was a good fight. I forgot to mention the fight that was under the Mares. It was on the Mares. The hell's his name? Mares Santa Cruz. It was Reese versus Ceja. That was a really good undercard fight as well. But for some, the bad is gonna outweigh the good. I think for me, the good has outweighed the bad, and even though I wasn't interested, and I'm not interested in watching all of their cards. Probably the most that I missed was 8 in a row. Imagine missing 8 HBO cards or Showtime cards in a row. You're missing out on some really quality boxing. And I do not feel that way about the fights that I missed in the PBC. Dominguez versus Vicente. Charlo versus Campfort. Lara versus Zabek. I don't feel like I missed much. Gonzalez versus Gerfi. Bezier versus Lawrenson. And yes, like I said, it's giving exposure to these guys. But if nobody's watching it, not even the biggest fans of your sport, then how much exposure is this fighter actually getting? Now, I'll stick that it has been a success. I'll say it's a 60% success, 40% failure, because I've seen not a lot of people turning off boxing because of the PBC, just a lot of people not watching the PBC product, and a lot of that has to do with who the quote unquote promoter or the manager of the fighters is, and those people probably were never going to be behind it, the PBC anyway. And if you're one of those, please be honest with yourself and let me know. I'm not going to judge you either way. I really don't care if you don't like Al Heyman. But I think you have to admit that there were some very good fights. But there were some mismatches. There were some pretty bad fights. There were some bad decisions. It's like if you have a lot of it, a lot of something, you're going to have a lot of negative too. So boxing is pretty negative sport with the robberies, with the mismatches, with the politics. Times 46, you're going to get some crap. And maybe the 19 cards that I missed had some of that, maybe had some positive. I know a lot of the ones that I watched had a lot of positive in it. So, yeah, I'll stick with it. I'll say 60-40, that it's a positive thing. And I think they'll continue to grow, and I feel like it's a good thing for the sport. I like the PBC. Please leave your thoughts and opinions. I know a lot of you guys don't think the way I think, and that's perfect. Please leave your thoughts below. And you guys have a great day. Happy New Year.